Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If you guys would be so kind, would you mind introducing yourselves?
Yeah, sure. I'm Rick. I'm the guitar player, one of the two guitar players of Reeking Aura.
I'm Terrell, the other guitar player in Reeking Aura.
I'm TJ. I'm the bass player in Reeking Aura.
Well, you better go before me. I'm Will, the vocalist of Reeking Aura. I'm kind of we're doing Hollywood squares here on the Zoom call. That's why no one knows who's going first.
And then I'm Hudson. I'm the drummer of Reeking Aura.
Guys, welcome. And Rick, Will, Terrell, welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
Rick, you are, I believe, the first member of the Four Timers Club. This is your
Wow, that's awesome.
this is your fourth time on Dreams of Consciousness.
That's almost like the Saturday Night Live club they used to have, the Five Timers Club back in the day. I'm going to get a jacket the next time.
I'll definitely have one made for you.
2XL, 2XL. Thank you.
Will, you've also been on the podcast, I believe, 3 times. Terrell, you were on a few years back to speak about the previous Reeking Aura album. Hudson and TJ, this is my first time speaking to you guys, but welcome.
Thank you.
Let's start with the music that you guys make with Reeking Aura. Rick, I believe you described Reeking Aura as a broth, a stew of a lot of 90s death metal influences and older stuff like Celtic Frost and Bathory and stuff like that. Do you feel that's still true?
That was a description of the band at one state, probably. Mach 1 Reeking Aura. There's been different. There's definitely this band has been in existence for about 6 years now, and there's definitely been different eras and sounds already, and that's kind of interesting. In such a short period. But I don't think that really holds true 100% anymore, because the influences on this album definitely branched out a little bit more in different ways, and that reflects in the album, because it sounds extremely different to my ears than the first album.
Terrell, as the other guitarist, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I tend to agree with what Rick is saying. I think this album, it kind of features all of our songwriting styles and influences as we all contributed. I know for me personally, I had a lot of nods to Morbid Angel and Immolation, but a lot of Morbid Angel in this album, specifically Heretic Era. So shout out to the people that pick up on that. A lot of At the Gates, at least for me personally. But it's all about not necessarily just aping that style, but kind of seeing how it melds with the overall Reeking sound.
And to jump in real quick, Terrell mentioned At the Gates, just so like from the second even before we started recording this, and I hate saying this because I don't like to, it's not a comparison, but I always said this is our Slaughter of the Soul to me. Like, this album is a quick ripper, just like that one was. It was like there's like no room for breathing, just like that album. It reminds me of that album. So At the Gates, definitely a big influence on this record.
Will, or any of the other guys, do you want to say anything about the way the sound has evolved, or describe the style further?
I would just quickly add that as the one guy who doesn't play guitar in the band or contribute to the instrumental aspect of the songwriting, the first album, Ryan Lipinski wrote a lot of that material, and he's parted ways with the band since then. And the short version of that long story is, obviously we wish Ryan the best. There's no animosity there. And there's a project called Rotted Tower that Hudson, who's in this interview, who's in Reeking Aura, did with him too, after he left the band. But what I'm getting at is Ryan, I think, the Bathory, the whole old school, root of that question, that was something that was really close to his heart, and obviously something that we could sign on to. But when he parted ways with the band and it was time to write a new album, Terrell and Rick already mentioned some of the influences in Hudson and TJ. I'm going to shut up in a minute, but I would just say that we wanted it to sound a little bit. It's still, I think we were successful in it, retaining the Reeking Aura sound and vibe in a way, but it's in a new era, and it's a little bit more influenced by maybe your '90s death metal, maybe some of your classic Swedish bands, things like that.
So the last time you guys were on was shortly after the first album, or shortly before the first album came out, uh, back in 2022. Will, you mentioned a little bit of what's happened since then, but do you guys want to catch everybody up on what the band has been doing since 2022?
Huh. Seems like a lot has transpired. Well, we have been playing live here and there. We've done a few tours, few weekenders. We've gone up and down the East Coast, as far down as Florida, and as far up as playing Maine. And a few places in between. Our next, things we want to start pushing a little bit further west in terms of getting out there live once the album's out. But the last 2 years, we've been playing some cool shows here and there, but it was really nose to the grindstone on first writing a new album from the ground up, and then recording it and getting it done, and then getting it mixed and mastered, and this whole process. It was a real it was a hustle for us, and it took a while, but we're that much more proud of it, man. So yeah, we've done some cool shows and done a couple of cool tours, and what you might call a weekend tour, things like that. And we just want to keep building on that. I don't know if the other guys want to interject something I may have left out.
Yeah, also the last 2 years we've welcomed Hudson and TJ to the fold, and
Yeah.
we've it's been the best thing. So thank you guys. I'll say thank you every interview. Thank you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah. We've we've had a few lineup changes over the years. I think we could probably just say blanket statement. We wish everybody who's been in Reeking Aura the best, and it's all good between us and everything like that. But this lineup we got here,
Yeah, we'll keep it.
yeah, the logistics work, and we've really bonded together as a band, coming together and writing this album.
Well, let's bring Hudson and TJ into the discussion. Guys, how did you end up joining the band, and what did you like about Reeking Aura's music? Why did you want to be a part of this?
I guess I joined first, and then TJ will go. But I worked with Colin Marston at his studio in Queens back when it was still in Queens for like a year and change. I was an intern at his studio, and so I became friends, but colleagues with him through that, and I learned a ton from Colin. And then these guys were looking for a fill-in drummer for a couple shows. I believe the first one was at St. Vitus. It was with Horrendous and Outer Heaven, I think it was the first. And Horrendous is one of my favorite fucking bands of all time. Not just one of my favorite newer bands, but one of my favorite bands, period. And they're all super, super nice dudes. So I was like hyped to jump on that opportunity. So Colin set up that little connection. I filled in on a couple more shows after that, and then there was going to be a tour in the summer that they were going to ask if I could fill in on. And so it was I think it was the first day of tour was actually, either the second day or the first day was on my birthday, and I was going to go see Metallica on that day. I made the decision to go sell my ticket and play death metal instead of see 50-year-old Metallica. So we did that, and then yeah, shows went great, tour went great, everything was cool, and we started to write new material. The writing process was really, really fun for me, at least, because in the beginning it was like I need to try to write a Reeking Aura song. I remember I reached out to Colin after the 2022 record came out, and I was like, "This record's fucking awesome! Like the production's great." I was like a fan of the first record before there was ever even any hint of it, of me being a part of the project. And so the first writing contributions I had, I think I was trying to like write a Reeking Aura song, but then as this record started to come together, it was kind of just like everybody's just throwing out what they like about music in general, and I think that became pretty cool. But yeah, after Tom became really, really busy, TJ filled in on a couple shows, and I'll let him take it from there.
Yeah, so I came in once. Yeah, Hudson gave me the call and said that Reeking Aura was kind of looking for a new bassist after Tom had to step down, and I was really excited because I'd already been a big Reeking Aura fan. I loved the first album. And yeah, once I was in the mix, it was really cool to try to write songs that sounded like Reeking Aura, but being able to put my own twist on it, which I thought was really cool.
Might be worth mentioning that me and TJ were in a band prior.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I
we
should say,
also play in Trog.
yeah, another band called Trog. He plays guitar in that band. I still play drums. And yeah, so when the opening opened up, I mean, me and TJ hang out all the fucking time. So it was easy to just shoot the call over.
Yeah, and Trog is awesome, by the way. So everyone should check Trog out.
Thanks for Trog is awesome. I will co-sign that.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
So, guys, we had a long discussion about the way songs used to come together for those early releases, and I believe you guys said that a lot of the skeletons of the songs were put together by Ryan. Now, is the music mostly written by Rick and Terrell?
On this album, if you break down who wrote what, Hudson wrote most of the material on this album. 3 of the 9 songs. There are 8 there's one track is a interlude that Terrell wrote, so that would give Terrell 3 as well. So Terrell 3, Hudson 3, TJ and myself got a couple each, and that rounds it out. So we branch it out. We definitely each have a good amount of input on this album, and it's not a case of too many cooks spoiling the broth. You understand? Because we think that the way we're doing it is really, really good.
Now, is the process, even if the contributors are different this time around, is the process more or less the same? Are you guys coming up with skeletons of songs on your own with programmed drums and then bringing them to the band?
It's
Yeah,
not.
yeah, you could go ahead.
I'm sorry. And this is also from my perspective as like the singer who's just getting the instrumentals and writing them and showing up at rehearsal. But now that I didn't think about it like this until Adrian just said it out loud, but it kind of is similar in that we've got those pre-programmed recording demos, and then we all show up to rehearsal ready to flesh them out and come together. But I'm sorry, whoever I cut off.
Yeah, it's more like everybody comes to the table with a song for the most part. That's how it was on this record anyway. Everyone just had a song, and it was everyone's pretty good with home studio stuff, and Hudson and Terrell especially, and so we can get little full demos to the rest of the band before anybody even learns the stuff. And then when you're learning the stuff, it already sounds good, so it's easy to learn. And then by the time you're at practice, you got the song down.
Hudson and
Yeah, it's
TJ.
definitely.
Sorry,
Oh,
Terrell.
yeah.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's definitely one of those homework bands, as Rick and Will mentioned, and it was fun too because I still kind of employ the same thing I always do. If there's a skeleton and I'm playing the exact riff, I'm always going to kind of do like my own little twist on little riffs, own little counter melodies if I can shoehorn in something somewhere. So that's kind of something I did with the first album, because even though Ryan was writing the bulk, I was saying, what can I do to kind of make it different,
Yeah.
or just add my own little palette.
Pocket sand, right?
Exactly, pocket sand.
Hudson and TJ, is your process for writing for Trog pretty similar for how you create songs for Reeking Aura?
I would say it's basically identical. Trog is very much a homework band as well. It's just like we just are sending demos at mock speed back and forth all the time. But I don't play any instruments very well besides drums, which happen to be the biggest pain in the ass to record. So I write all of my stuff in MIDI guitar, like Castlevania style. It sounds really funny to listen to the fake guitar demos, and then I program my drum parts. But what that might be a limitation in some ways, but to me, I actually really, really like it because there's no attachment to what's there. It's extremely modular. If you want to fucking double a section, you just cut, paste, double it. If you want to change this note to that note, you just shift up arrow and change it, a note up. It's extremely modular, and there's no there's no friction to changing anything. So I really like being able to chop stuff up and play Legos, or if Rick sends me a bunch of riffs, I can chop them up and move them around and put a tail end on it or do whatever. So that's kind of how Trog operates, and me and TJ are both just sending Logic demos back and forth, and then as the songs start to come together a little more, you get the real guitars laid down. But I don't ever want to have to record drums more than one time. It's a big fucking pain in the ass. So yeah, the fake demos work for me at least. Maybe TJ wants to talk a little bit.
Yeah, I love doing the fake demos. The MIDI guitars are easy to see. I know Hudson types everything in on the piano roll, so you know what note that you're gonna play. But
Crazy.
yeah, the way I do it is I also play guitar, so I'll lay down a guitar track and then I'll put down some really shitty sounding fake drums, and then I have Hudson put in better ones before I send it to the band. So
Yeah, it's like it's kind of like a factory, it's like a factory of riffs, of sweet riffs that I think it's only going to get more well oiled as we go along, and now that this record is coming out, it's time to start thinking about writing the next one.
And I guess one last thing just about the fake at least the programming the drums. I've always really enjoyed writing my drum parts that way, as opposed to, I mean, every once in a while I'll come up with like an exercise on the kit and turn it into an idea that makes it into a song. But for the most part, at least to me, the song always starts with like a riff or a melody. Who really gives a fuck what the drums are doing? And then I like to build the drums around that riff, and I don't like to be limited by what I can currently play. So a lot of times I'm programming parts that are extremely difficult for me and that I don't really know how to play, and that I have to then go learn how to play later when we have to actually jam them in real life and whatever. But I've always found, because if I'm just jamming on the kit, I'll forget what I did, or if I had a cool idea, I'll forget it or whatever. So I really like to tinker with the actual ideas first before I go learn anything. So that way I feel like I can try to counterpoint the guitar riffs and get beats that I'm kind of a little more, proud of, and that are a little bit more deliberate than maybe something I would have come up with just blowing my ears out at the real acoustic set.
Will, do you wait till you've heard the demos before you start writing your vocal patterns and coming up with lyrics, or do you have concepts in mind prior to hearing the music?
I might have ideas for lyrics. Like I want to write a song about this theme or this idea, but I need a song before I really sit down and write anything. Maybe sometimes like a certain phrase or a certain phrasing of words or something will come to me that I want to write down before I forget it. But more often than not, it's one of these guys has a demo and it's finally finished, and they say this is more or less what the song is going to be. Then I'll sit down with a cup of coffee and my notebook, and I'll have to repeat every part of the song a few times and kind of go through it and hum it in my head a little bit, and let the parts kind of come out to me. So I need a demo to work on, so to speak. I know there's like some vocalists maybe who have like they're always writing in their notebook and they'll adapt whatever they're writing to a song. I'm a little bit more the other way around, where I want the demo that these guys give me or the instrumental that they come up with at rehearsal, whatever, to I want to try to suit that atmosphere, maybe whatever comes to my mind, what picture they paint, in my mind when I'm listening to it, that's going to come out when I'm listening to the song.
So one thing that we should mention is that with the previous lineup, you had three guitarists at the same time, with Rick and Terrell both adding uh, their flourishes and their harmonies. Now that you're down to two guitars, stylistically or even in the writing sense, how does that change things?
Um, I I think it opens things up more. Earlier I said we don't have too many cooks, and while I didn't think that we did at the time, three guitars might be, it's hard to pull off. Three guitars is hard to pull off, and I think we did it pretty well. But and it was always something I wanted to do, even in my other band for years and years, three guitars, and and I finally got to do it, and we did a great record with it, and I kind of like the openness of the two guitars. Sometimes you have people stepping on each other, and when you add bass to the mix, then you have people fighting for registers, and you clashing sometimes, and live. I think it shows in the live setting as well. It's less chaotic now with two guitars, so it opens things up more, if that makes sense, and it makes things a little bit easier for the two of us in a way, to me anyway.
Yeah, I could even put a little different spin on it too, because there's like a natural progression with the band. So if you look at it as majority of the shows that we played, especially on tour, would be two guitarists. So like just fundamentally as a band, we were used to playing two guitarists, even though we were like so-called three guitarists. And I'll even add that on the new album, two guitarists are writing. Sometimes you'll have dueling riffs, and then I'll add a layer on top of it. So I'm still keeping that idea of having three guitars. Granted, obviously, I'm not going to execute that live, but looking back, we weren't able to do that live either with just two guitarists at those times. So I don't look at it as one as obviously one is clearly more practical than the other. But stylistically, we try to keep the same vibe of the band, and I think we've managed to keep it dense while keeping it just like honestly how all these bands have been, whether it's Buckshot and Reeking. It's me and Rick, like how is me and Rick playing off of each other.
Do you guys want to add anything, Will, Hudson, TJ, about the three guitar lineup and coming back down to two?
Occurred to me too. You asked that question before. What has the band been doing since 2022? Reeking Aura, if you look back as a whole, it's going through a few different eras, like Rick said, and it's a band that is really kind of stretched out and worked out the kinks and the Charlie horses over the years, and kind of settled into, like I said, something that makes sense logistically. We're all kind of on the same page. I think in the beginning, the band was maybe more of what you might call I don't know if a studio project is the right word, but maybe a band that didn't have that intention to play live and go on the road and
Right.
like a traditional, band might do. And then once that those opportunities starting opening up more, especially after the live music scene kind of came back from that COVID era, we started playing live more, and a lot of the time we would play live with just the two guitarists. So that also is part of the evolution of the band and plays a part in that conversation. Just the idea that we did our three guitar album. We did play several shows as a three guitar band. There were a lot of shows that we did like that, but it just became, due to practicality and logistics and everything else, a working live band that's going to be doing a tour and sharing a van and everything. I'm sure there's people who have done it, but it ended up being the way that we evolved.
I think that's a good point, Will. That the first album was uh, a lot of the material came together during the COVID era, and so maybe it made more sense when everybody was stuck at home to have, three guitars and writing in that way. Um, and the logistics of playing live and touring with three guitars probably wasn't on your minds as much at that time, right?
Also, when you
Yeah.
pull into, I'm sorry, when you pull into the average death metal show bar or club somewhere, and the random sound engineer looks at you when you say you have three guitars, sometimes that's the
And
funny
that,
thing.
I
Yeah,
gotta say, yeah,
or fitting the equipment, fitting three
yeah.
cabinets plus a bass cabinet on stage plus drums, and some of the stages we don't play Madison Square Garden, so
Not yet, right?
so yeah, exactly.
But another way to just look at it is the people that got a chance to see that live got to see something special, however chaotic it may be, just that opportunity to, have all of us play at one time. Also want to mention too, something I didn't realize. It kind of the experience of just us playing live as a two piece kind of definitely changed my approach to guitar a little bit because I was never a lead guy. And when we did our first tour, I was like, okay, Ryan does a lot of solos, and I do no solos. So on that first tour, I pretty much played all those songs with solos and improvised, took parts of what he did, and now I'm like doing solos on albums, which is definitely not how I used to. I would only do like little layers and things, but I think it's definitely opened me up as a player and a person that I'm more open to do like more leads, throw caution to the wind, and kind of show more of my style that way.
Very cool.
So the album that we're talking about is called On the Promise of the Moon, and it will be out on April 17th through Profound Law Records. We we talked about the writing for this album, and Rick, you compared it to Slaughter of the Soul. Uh, it, was the intention always going to be, was the intention always wanting this album to be more immediate and to have that kind of punch that Slaughter of the Soul has?
Yeah, like we Dan Swano mixes and masters this record. So when Dan when you first start working with him in a mixing capacity, he says, "What do you want? What do you want it to sound like? Give me a record. Give me a record." Hudson immediately came to the table with Balmora. That's the name of the band, right? And I forget the name of it was an EP that came out in 2024, I believe.
Yeah, EP's called Prologue. It's only 3 songs, but it's fucking amazing.
So that was our reference record. And once we all heard it, we were like, yeah, that sounds really good. It has like a raw, it kind of, it doesn't sound like Slaughter of the Soul, but it same boat to me kind of deal. Like, and I was like, all right, yeah, this is cool. And Dan liked the way it sounded, and through I don't want to say trial and error, but through lots of notes between Hudson, Terrell, and Dan, the album doesn't sound very much like that album, as far as it doesn't ape it, it doesn't clone that album, but our album is his own thing, but you could hear the influence perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, the reference was a metalcore EP, but like really that old school kind of metalcore that played off of that Swedish melodeath style. So the At the Gates is maybe only a secondary influence to that, but it definitely translates through. Like that band, they definitely have HM2s mixed in. We didn't use HM2s on this record, but like that entire Swedish ethos is definitely present, even though it's stylistically a little bit different. And I loved how organic and natural, especially the drums, just they hit hard as hell, but they felt really real. And that was at least what drew me to want to try to emulate that sound.
I mean, from the outside, and maybe this is just because I've known Rick for such a long time, but it feels like some of the melodies are also coming from that peaceful side of your influences. There's kind of a Gregor McIntosh style to some of the leads where they're simple but they're effective and they're very memorable. Do you think that's fair?
That's how I try to play leads. That's how it's the only way I know. I'm not a flashy kind of guitar player. So yeah, Greg McIntosh is definitely one of my favorite metal guitarists, love Paradise Lost. And so yeah, I could totally see that. But I don't, I do some melodies on this record. I think I did a couple more solos on the first album than I do on this album. But melodies and things of that nature are prevalent throughout this one. So yeah, those aren't usually a bunch of flash. Those are just, I don't want to sound like a fool, but I play more like feel than skill, I guess.
No, I mean, same goes for me too. I'm always trying to figure out like what's going to be like an ear candy kind of piece.
Right.
Yeah, that's usually what I look for. Because like I said, I'm not really a solo player, but I kind of know what I like. So if I can like kind of communicate a little melody idea, I'm going to toss it in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like the guitarist you mentioned, I don't know him by name, but I'm sure I would be in alignment with them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you guys had a couple guests stop by to add to the album. Do you want to say who your guests were?
Two guest vocalists we had our buddy, our longtime buddy John Berg, who was a friend of Will from back in the day, from Will and our old bass player Tom, when they had Buckshot Facelift from before Terrell and I. John Berg, I believe, put out you guys' first album. Is that correct, Will?
Yeah, John is kind of he lives in Vermont now, but he in the 90s and early 2000s he was real big in the punk and hardcore scene here on Long Island. He was in several bands back then. His band that he had for several years until recently was called The Path. But about 20 years ago, he had a label and he put out Buckshot Facelift's first album. And Buckshot Facelift, in a lot of ways, is kind of like the origin of Reeking Aura because Terrell, Rick, and I were all, and kind of still are all in Buckshot Facelift, even though that band's not really that active. But yeah, John did guest vocals on one song, and it's got some D beats. Some if it's a Reeking Aura crossover song, it's a crossover. Kind of feel to some of the parts in that song, so I thought it'd be appropriate. Also, Eston Brown of the band Volnificus. People probably seeing them a little bit more on social media and things like that lately. They're touring and doing shows and promoting their album. I think they're on Ohio Death Fest and all this sort of thing. Eston Brown is a longtime friend, way before Reeking Aura, just other bands we've been in, and just going to shows in New York City and New York. Eston used to live here in New York and he's a New York native, and he's like part of our little extended family. So he's a great vocalist. We love Volnificus, but we got a lot of love for him going back. So both of those guest vocalists are kind of like old friends from slightly different parts of the scene, but from the local underground music scene here. And I don't know if one of you guys wants to talk about Ben. Someone who knows how to play an instrument. Maybe talk about Ben.
Ben Karras is in a band called Slaughter Son, and he plays violin in that band. That's a death metal band that has no guitars. It's just violin, and it's pretty sick. It's very unique. It's
That sounds
incredible to
awesome.
see live. Yeah, it's and Ben is an amazing talent. Ben also just just opened his own studio, Frost Gauntlet Recordings. I believe that's the name of the studio, and he's just multi-talented guy, and he plays strings on three of the songs on this record. And I've worked with him previously on Gray Skies, the last album. He did two songs on that album, so he's friends with the guys in Replicant and Wayfarer, or was it Windfarer? Is it Wayfarer? Yeah,
Windfair. Yeah. He's in
Windfarer.
Windfair. Yeah.
Windfarer. Those dudes, I always get those band names mixed up. But those guys are a cool bunch of dudes, and that's their group there. Sick dudes.
So we spoke about Dan Swano mixing and mastering the album. What can you tell me about Keith?
Well, I've known Keith going back 21 years now, so it's legal. Like our relationship is legal. It's legal now.
Your friendship can go into a bar and order whiskey.
Basically, he worked with he was friends with Grace Guy's drummer Sal Gregory from back in the day, and then he introduced us to Keith, and then we started working with Keith over the years, and it was a natural choice to use Keith on this record when we were unable to go back to Colin because of Colin's studio situation, and yeah, we went and we recorded with Keith Moore up in his studio, OK Studios in Kinderhook, New York. That's up near Albany. It's up where there's a lot of cows and manure up there and stuff. But we love that shit because that's what we're about with this band. We're about that stuff, the cows and the lambs and stuff where Keith is from. But yeah, so Keith Moore's great to work with, and so he recorded and Dan mixed and mastered.
I mean, as you mentioned, you've worked with Keith with Buckshot and Gray Skies for years. Um, what what do you think makes the relationship work?
He's I mean, there's familiarity. He's very easy to work with as far as recording. So when you're recording, you don't want high stress. You want comfort. So there's an element of that, and like I said, familiarity. But Hudson and TJ haven't recorded with Keith before, but I believe their experience was very positive as well. So familiarity, you don't really need that with Keith. So it's just an easy guy to work with, and the results are usually not usually, they're always very good. So we wouldn't keep we wouldn't be repeat customers like that.
Yeah, Keith knows his stuff, and his origin story. He played drums in the Long Island hardcore band Cleanser. They had some reunion stuff a few years ago, but so that implying that he knows underground music, he knows extreme music and heavy music. And he really knows his stuff as an audio engineer too. At the end of the day, so that familiarity and friendship is just the icing on the cake.
Hudson, do you want to talk about capturing the drum sound?
Sure. I have a pretty large and pretty specific drum setup that I'm sure annoys sound engineers every time we go play live. But I really like to write my fills around the kit that I have, and I need everything to kind of be exactly where it is. So I talked with him. I had never met him before, but we talked for maybe 3 or 4 days before I went up there. Just about what we were going for, and obviously the Balmora record I had referenced as being like we want a very natural drum sound. And I went up there with my whole drum rack, and I went up there with my toms and my snare. And I really thought at the very least I was going to use my snare on the record, but the drums that Keith had were just better in every way, so we used those. And I threw my cymbals on my. I set my rack up, threw his drums on my rack. His snare drum sounded fucking incredible. So like it was like I was like, no, I think I want to use mine, and we did a little mic shootout, and his was just clearly better. So I was like, fuck it, let's do it. And I just kind of trusted what he was doing because I've worked in studios. I didn't want to be difficult. The guy obviously knows his equipment, so
Right.
and he was absolutely right. My snare drum was not going to sound like the way that it sounds on the track. I've been beating the fuck out of it in a live setting for 4 years. How could it sound as good as the one that he had in pristine condition. So, but he was just super, super helpful. And his assistant engineer, her name was Haley, and she was super nice and helpful as well. And yeah, they were just immediately welcoming, and we got my drums set up pretty quick. And I don't remember the exact time, but I think we got through the whole record on drums in like 6 hours, 6.5 hours. I showed up I've been practicing my ass off for like, weeks before, and I just wanted to go in and I didn't want to take up too much time because I feel like when I engineer myself, I usually take forever. So I just want to get in and get out. And so we did. And he was super, super helpful. Nothing was weird. We got the takes we needed, and there were no holdups at all. He was like super professional, and so was his assistant. It was really cool.
Do you want to say what the brand of snare is that you guys used on the record?
I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. I know that mine is a DW, so it didn't sound as good as whatever the fuck we used.
Yeah, did you use a Black Beauty, a
I
Ludwig?
don't think it was. I think it was
No.
close.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to use the Black Beauty because I mean, that's like the holy grail. But I think we
Yeah.
tried some. It was good. It sounded amazing.
So TJ, we touched on this a little bit, but part of the problem with having that three guitar lineup was the bass got really buried. Uh, just too many frequencies, and the bass is already kind of a weird instrument in death metal, just because it's trapped between, the down tuned guitars and the double bass drumming, the double kick drumming. In capturing your bass sound, what did you want Keith and Dan Swano to bring?
One big thing for me in a bass sound is I like to have a lot of like string noise. Like I like to have really low action and get a lot of like string clanks, so it kind of cuts through the guitars, but you still have like a lot of that low end meat in there. Um, but yeah, Keith had a really nice SVT like Ampeg with the tubes and then the big 8x10 cabinet. So I mean, that's automatically like the best bass sound you're gonna get. So we used that, and yeah, it was yeah. From there, it was pretty easy.
So Rick, I think in the past we bonded over our mutual love for Dan Swano. I mean, as a producer as well as a musician and all the various bands he's been in, he's such a legend. In sending this album to him, we spoke about some of the influences that you had production wise, but obviously he's such a legend and so associated with the Swedish death metal scene. Um, what did you want him to bring to the sound finally?
Well, like I said, we had an opportunity to mix things up on this record with the mixing and with the recording and stuff. So when we chose to go with Dan, you know, from the very beginning, back in the infancy of the band, discussions had been, hey, I'd love to get Swano to mix, our stuff, so it was always out there and on a kind of like a let's see what happens one of these days. And we came into the instance of Colin not having a studio for a short time, and we were recording a record, and it was like, this is the perfect time. So I just wanted, and I'd worked with him previously on 3 or 4 occasions now with my other band. So working with him also very easy. And again, I don't need to give the guy's resume and all that stuff. So I let things in his hands a lot. And it's just like, Dan, here you go. With my other band, it was more like hands off. Dan, here you go. And then he sent it back, and I was like, okay, I think the volume here might need to come up a little bit. And that was it. With this band, there was a lot more hands-on work with Dan. Not by me. Not by me. I sat back and I enjoyed it. It was Hudson and Terrell that worked with him on this record. So I'm more of like yes sir, and anything you say sir, kind of situation. So I might not be the best guy to judge his mixing and stuff. But yeah, I love the way the record sounds. It just sounds good on everything, headphones, even on my shitty car stereo. It sounds great. And so it's just a joy to listen to. And we just got the vinyl, or I just got the vinyl. None of the other guys got the vinyl yet. And it sounds really good on that as well. So very happy, very happy.
Well, Hudson and Terrell, do you guys want to jump in? What about the mixes and working with Dan Swano?
We're usually just like uber nerds about this stuff, and we're just giving hyper specific notes. But it was cool. It was cool to be able to do that with Hudson in tandem, because I'm sure like Hudson's probably the only guy in his band that ends up doing that, and kind of me likewise. So we're both just kind of like, just turn this up like a little smidge here and stuff like that there. And I think Dan like really nailed those tones really early on for me. So at least from a guitar standpoint, it was like maybe add a little effect here or there, but I wasn't getting too hyper specific. Well, at least in my head, but to everybody else, they're like looking at me freaking putting timestamps with milliseconds and shit. Like,
Yeah.
but just that little attention to detail, and sometimes we would catch things that maybe Dan didn't catch here and there. So it was cool.
And I think he appreciated that. He appreciated the level of detail you guys brought.
Yeah, I know for me, this is the first metal project that I've ever played drums on that I did not track and mix all the way to the end. So on one end, it was really nice to just be like, I'm just a fucking dumbass drummer. I don't need to touch anything. And then the music just kind of got made after we were done tracking. But drum editing is always like, not drum editing, but drum mixing is always really particular, especially when you play fast and, metal drums are so dynamic. It's just there's always some bullshit going on no matter what you do. No technique is foolproof when you're playing a million miles an hour. So it was really cool to just go back and forth. But I mean, like even the first mix we got was fucking fantastic. And then it was just me being annoying. Like, hey, I really wanted my splash cymbal to come out in that fill that I really about. Like, oh, hey, I know I hit a couple toms over there. I can't hear them too well right now. And like, obviously they don't really affect. I mean, to me they do, but to somebody who's never heard the record before, they're not gonna give a fuck if that splash cymbal there or not. But it was just kind of more me being annoying. But generally, like the balance was incredible right off the bat, and he knocked it out of the park. But it was funny because Rick said, what was the quote? He said like forensic audio analysts over in Reeking Aura. It was me and Terrell.
Yeah, yeah, it was
So
some of
it
that
was cool.
nature.
I guess there was one. I forget what note it was, but he's like, "Oh, I missed that. Like, good catch." And I was like, "Fuck yeah!"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was
It's always
cool.
good it's always good when you catch them on one.
But
It's
he
yeah,
nailed it. Like, I mean, he did better than I would have, and I'm fucking super grateful that he was part of this. It sounds awesome.
yeah, I love that guy. So I mean, on the Gray Skies album that we did, we had Colin record and Swano mix. So that's like the best of both worlds in a crazy way. It's
Yeah.
we bring it together around here.
So, Will, sorry, not to get too deep into your technique and your secrets, but I've been asking a lot of vocalists this question, and Rick, if you want to jump in as well and talk about your vocal approach, but do you guys double track your vocals either for this project or any of your other projects?
I don't. I don't like. There was one. There might be something years ago where the engineer wanted me to do that, but I don't like doing that, and I don't do that. No, I mean, and not just Reeking Aura, but any of my bands, except for the occasional part where it's done for effect, But not, no, no. That's. And on albums where bands do that, sometimes it just sounds a little weird, the double tracking.
Yeah, I don't do that either, but I lie in a way because we did a 7 inch. My other band did a 7 inch, and there's two songs on that where I think I did do that on both of those songs. And I looked back at that afterwards because the next recording I didn't do that, and I was like, oh, why did I do that on the 7 inch? Why did I do such things? Earthwalker, but it sound it. Will brings in a point like when it needs it. Like sometimes he'll do a low vocal and a high one at the same time, maybe the same line for the length of a line or something, but not generally double the vocal. I double my guitars. I won't bullshit that. There's mad guitars going on all the time. Just guitar and guitars after guitars, doubles and doubles, left and right. So that's different though.
We triple tracked drums. As a total aside, it's just as far as the vocals on this record. I mean, I think I speak for everybody, but especially as in one of the newer members, I felt extremely lucky to have Will at the front of this band, both from a live standpoint and just a vocal talent standpoint. I mean, you see the comments on every fucking YouTube video that has to do with Reeking Aura or any of his bands, and everybody's like, Will," and that's for a very legitimate reason.
Very
And I
lucky.
just I think it's fucking awesome. And he did. I mean, the fact that some of these takes are single tracked, or most of them are single tracked, is like, god damn. I don't know how fucking anybody sounds like that. So, I love the way the vocals sound. I think I feel very lucky to be in a band with somebody who can do that shit.
You know?
Thanks,
Yeah, I
dude.
just I spoke to a band a while back. The episode went up last week. Who not only big Reeking Aura fans, but one of the members was wearing a Reeking Aura shirt, and of course, they all love Will's vocals. Um,
Yeah, I mean, when we started this band, it was just myself and Ryan, and like we were like, "What are we gonna do for like 2 seconds?" We were like, "Oh, we'll each do vocals." And I'm like, "No, screw that, man. I'm I reached my quota with vocals. I was like, let's get the only guy I could think of is Will." So that was that, and Will luckily would wanted to do it, so we got very lucky there as well.
I appreciate it, man. Glad it worked
Yeah,
out how it did.
everything works out.
just on the double tracking thing, I don't know why I thought it was more common than it is. I think I've heard some napalm stuff where Bonnie did multiple tracks multiple vocal tracks. I've heard some Behemoth stuff where, it's the same thing. It sounded like they had multiple tracks going on at the same time. Is it more to do with the engineer wanting multiple tracks and compressing them all together, or is it the vocalists?
It's
I
probably more
mean,
the vocalist. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean the one time I wish I could remember the one time that the guy wanted me to do it back in the day. It was like his thing, I guess. It was
Oh.
more like what he wanted from it. But yeah, I guess it could be either or. And I'm not talking about like when you add a backing vocal or something like that, but like the whole lead vocal you're doing twice, and that's somehow, I guess some people feel in the mixing process that makes it more powerful. There's a Suffocation record where he did that, but I don't know, man. Just me personally, as a listener, as someone who listens to music, when I hear a death metal record, I would rather hear if they have two singers, then yeah, I want to hear two singers. But if the band has one vocalist, I want to hear one kind of one vocalist doing the lead parts, that sort of thing. So it's a matter of preference, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just curious. I've been asking a lot of people this question. It kind of dawned on me that I don't really know how how death metal vocals are recorded. I think it may be more common in black metal. Do you think that's possible? Like maybe the double tracking is just because they have those high screams, and so they need something to thicken it up and make it sound a little bit more, a little bit less whiny.
Probably depends on the style of black metal. The early stuff, definitely not. Like the Bathories and the Dark Thrones and stuff, probably not. But the more polished, I'm sure. Like the really atmospheric stuff, I'm sure there's some layering going on there for sure.
Yeah, with the layering, you end up softening the vocal because it gets phasey, and maybe that's the desired effect. But for more like brutal, crushing death metal, you kind of want something that's a little more punchy, and then you're only going to get that from a mono track with embellishments, of course.
Yeah.
That being said, though, Gateways to Annihilation, I mean, fucking million layers, and that shit sounds awesome. But that was very much a stylistic decision. I don't think that was like a recording technique. I think that Steve Tucker was just like, I'm gonna fuck y'all up real quick.
So the album will be coming out in April. What do you guys have planned in terms of tours or festival appearances or anything like that?
Right now, we just have a couple of one-offs booked. It's we've kind of been biding our time, if we're being honest here. We've kind of been biding our time a little bit, saying, okay, well, we're not like a road dog band right now, you know what I mean? So we're not out there for weeks at a time. So we're biding our time, and we said, let's let the record come out, and at that point, it's a good record. We should be able to secure some interest. You know, I'm not speaking a different language here. We put a good record out. There should be interest for us to play live in a good capacity. So we're hoping that things come together. We have a couple things brewing, little weekends maybe for the rest of the year lined up, not lined up, but lining up maybe. And we'll see what next year brings. Personally, next year, 2027, I think with the success, hopefully of a good record behind us, we'll have some opportunities to do a little longer runs maybe.
So by the time people hear this episode, On the Promise of the Moon will be out through Profound Lore Records. Gentlemen, not all at once, but if somebody could please tell the listeners how they can order the new album, please tell us what the best way to get it is.
Best way to get it would be through our Instagram has in our bio. There's a link tree. In that link tree, that's the record label. That's the Profound Lore's link tree. In that link tree, there's all the links you need, all the pertinent information as to where to purchase this record on vinyl, on CD, no matter what country, what part of the world you're in. It's separated by that. You could go. There's the Bandcamp link in there as well, so you could purchase on the Bandcamp various ways, myriad ways, all within that link tree in our Instagram, which is Reeking Aura at Reeking Aura. All our social media is Reeking Aura. Just look for Reeking Aura.
Or just look for Profound Lore Records.
Yeah.
Profound Lore Records website. There you go.
And so I believe Profound Lore is putting out two variants for the album. Do you guys want to say anything about the vinyl variants?
Well, I'm the one that has them. They're two. There's two of them, as you mentioned. It's like I call it ice. It's I forget the names they gave them, Blizzard and Serenity or something of this nature. But it's like
Like
ice and
candles.
yeah, right. It's like a Yankee Candle thing. It's like ice and
Well, why don't we
like
have Reeking
water.
Aura candles? I mean, come on, guys.
Not yet,
Well,
not yet, not yet.
we
Pleasing
were trying to
aura.
get a hot sauce going, but that didn't come together. We got something up the sleeve for merch.
Yeah. We always
But
do. We always do.
yeah, our merch points on merch game is on point. Not right this second. By the time this episode drops, the Bandcamp should be up and running again with some more merch. But we've kind of slacked on that on the Bandcamp side.
All the merch goes to the Bandcamp page?
When we're not playing shows, yes, but the stuff's been off the page for the last couple months as we blast through what we have left. We're kind of getting rid of what we have before we do a new overhaul of merch. But stuff will be up on the Bandcamp in a couple of weeks. So by the time this episode drops, there'll be some stuff up on there, some shirts.
So we mentioned the other projects that you guys are in. Do you guys want to issue any updates on Gray Skies Fallen, Thetis, Trog, anything else you guys are working on?
Thetis.
Yeah, okay. I could start. Yeah, Thetis it's finally out of hibernation, and we'll be coming out with our second album also on Profound Lore. It'll be coming out really soon. Actually, we just got an update Chris from Chris at Profound, and it's going to come out on the exact same date the first album came out. So that's kind of cool. A lot of this
Sick.
band does is like serendipitous. So it's definitely more of a flow state vibe kind of band than anything. But we definitely look forward to people checking it out. It's weird and different. I know every band says that, but Thetis is already kind of a weird band, and this was weird for us. I also want to note too that this is Thetis' second album. This is also Reeking's second album. Both albums are very much blue albums, which is like a thing in death metal. That second album being the blue album, and a lot of times people regard the second album as their favorite. So hopefully, we kind of hit those tropes in a good way.
Sick. Good points. And Afterbirth also next, coming up soon, right?
Yeah, the new Afterbirth album is all tracked and ready to be mixed by Joe Sincata at Full Force Studios. People might know Joe from his work with Suffocation, Internal Bleeding. He does live sound for a lot of big artists. He does live sound for the Misfits. He's worked with Black Dahlia Murder and Napalm Death, all these big guys. And he took the time out of his busy schedule to record a little old Afterbirth. And that album's going to be out on Willow Tip Records probably a little bit later on in 2026. So I'm having a good time this year, man. Just glad to be in the mix.
That's awesome. Hudson and TJ, anything about Trog?
We're dusting the cobwebs off. We've been pretty busy with other projects at the moment. TJ is been filling in with Malignancy, so that boy is busy. So we'll get back to writing sometime soon. Rotted Tower's writing new stuff. Hopefully we can get Trog out of hibernation pretty soon.
And Will also has the Heavy Hole podcast. Will, do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, well, the podcast is on a bit of a hiatus at the moment. But yeah, we're going to be coming out with some new episodes. I have some interviews that I have to drop still that I recorded before we kind of start taking a break. Tom Saltman, my podcast producer, he is involved with a lot of music right now. He's also an aspiring tattoo artist. So we're both kind of just pursuing other creative endeavors for a bit. And speaking for myself, just my own little life work balance. I got to a point where I had to put the podcast down for a bit. Not blaming the bands, but I also, I just wanted to focus on recording the vocals, writing the lyrics, recording the vocals, everything that we had to do for Reeking Aura and for Afterbirth. for these two albums I got coming out this year between the two bands. So the Heavy Hole podcast is definitely still a thing, and we're going to be coming back a little later in 2026. So if anyone's been wondering why there hasn't been many new episodes coming out the last few months, it's not nothing unusual going on. We'll just bear with us, and we're going to be coming back.
Yeah, I'm also kind of slowing down with the podcast. Um, I mentioned that Rick's been on the podcast multiple times over the past like 15 years or so, almost. Uh, Rick and Will
I
have
want that
always been.
jacket. I want that
Yeah,
jacket,
exactly.
man.
It's
Uh,
coming. It's coming.
All
I
right,
just
all
need to
right, all
find
right.
someone with a silk screen, and
I
you'll get
need
it.
it. I need another episode. Yeah.
But Rick and Will have always been very supportive of the podcast and all this, all my shenanigans, back when I was running around with a digital tape, digital MP3 recorder, not really knowing
Great.
what I was doing. Um, and, running into you guys at St. Vitus.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Vitus. Yeah.
Yeah. But I always appreciated how supportive you guys were. And it's always a pleasure to catch up with you guys and see you all. And Hudson and TJ, it was good meeting you guys, and I'm glad that you're part of this now. And Terrell, whenever that latest album is dropping, I hope we can catch up again and tell people about it. Um,
For sure.
is there anything else you guys want to say? Anything you want the listeners to know about this album or anything else?
Nothing. No AI was used in the making of this album.
Yeah. When the first record came out, I saw a few comments on the cover art. Oh, the AI cover art. It's not AI. It's a gentleman from Moldova named Jan
Karchelin, I would say.
Karchelin, Jan
Yeah.
Karchelin. Yes, Jan Karchelin. The guy
Yeah.
is a genius watercolor artist, and that's who we used again on this album. So there's no AI on there. It's just a master at his
Yeah,
craft.
we aspire to have very organic, homegrown agricultural death metal, as we say, man. So
Exactly. It's what we aim
yeah,
for.
yeah.
Terrell, final thoughts?
No, I think you guys are gonna like it. I think the interlude may have been AI. I never told you guys that.
Shit, we're in trouble. We're in trouble now.
No, but we really appreciate Adrian, and we hope that
Yeah, thanks a lot,
yeah,
Adrian. Thanks so much for everything.
we hope you're into it.
Yeah. Hudson, TJ, anything else you guys want to say?
No, thanks for having me.
I will say real quick, if anybody's into Casio G-Shock watches, I have a new YouTube channel about. I'm obsessed with G-Shocks, and that's about it. I love those things, and I'm kind of obsessed with them. I'm obsessed with those and the band. It's kind of a weird mix.
They call it a special interest in the medical world.
Yeah, right. It's a special interest in plastic watches I'm into now.
Well,
speaking of
I don't think
speaking of
that showed up on camera. Do you want to do that again?
speaking of well, yeah, this is my G-Shock watch. So like, I'm not
Yeah,
a connoisseur like Rick, but I do have I
yeah.
have one just to support my buddy Rick with his
I just got this one
his social
today.
media. But speaking of special interest, we are playing the Metal Wanna Fest. What's the date on that, guys? Is that
May 9th
May the 9th in Brooklyn?
at the Meadows.
Yeah, at the Meadows. That's a fest where there's going to be a lot of legal marijuana related vendors, and a bunch of sick death metal and black metal and old school kind of extreme metal bands playing. Carnugia is going to be there. Satanist is going to be there. Mutant. It's going to be pretty sick. So we're looking forward to that. And that is also kind of our record. And in addition to all that stuff, it's also our record release show
Right.
for our set there, man. And we're gonna have some cool merch for planning and all that sort of thing, man. So that's that to put a bow on it. That's it.
Excellent. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Talk
you.
talk to you soon, Adrian.
Yeah.